Take it away, guys.
Okay, well, in 1965, Carroll Shelby built a GT350. He started out building race cars. Then they wanted to build race cars, but they knew that they were never going to sell 500 race cars. So they built enough cars to satisfy the market, and they built the rest of them as street cars. They had the choice of either modifying the suspension and brakes and leaving the engine stock, or modifying the engine and leaving the suspension and brake stock. And Shelby, being a smart guy, realized it was easier to warranty brakes and suspension than it was to warranty a race engine. So basically the cars were allowed to have a modified engine from stock, but the stock GT350 street car has got the same brakes and the same suspension as the race car. So what happens with most cars, if you take a Camaro or a Corvette and you want to go racing and you modify it, you modify it, the street car, to make the race car. And what Shelby did is he started out with this car as the race car, and they detuned it slightly to make the street car, so that every street car that Shelby made is closer to an actual race car. But you start out with the basic Mustang unibody. They call it the fireproof interior, where it doesn't have any upholstery, no sound deadener, no rugs, no upholstery on the seat, just a fiberglass cover, no headliner, and the aluminum door panels, all to save weight. Basically, they have a couple of lightweight fiberglass seats, have a plastic rear window that saves about 19 pounds, and the cars were handmade. They were handmade by guys just like this.
Yeah, this car was built in 1965. Jerry Swartz, Bernie Kretschmar, and Mike Sangster. We built 36 of these in the race shop for Shelby American. Took us, 3 of us, a month to build 2 of these. They were hand built, shipped off to the customers. This car here is one of the best looking ones that's still alive here. It's owned by Rick Kopec.
This car is actually the 5th customer car. The first 2 were factory team cars, and then they started building cars for the customers, and this was just worked out. It's the 98th car produced by serial number, but it was the 5th one that was sent to a customer. The original owner was a guy named Ned Owen in Pennsylvania. And he had a friend named Skip Scott whose team was Essex Wire, and he got Essex Wire to sponsor it. They put their name on the door, and they used their color scheme. Instead of the twin blue stripes, the car originally came with blue stripes, but they painted it with the black stripe with the orange pinstripe because that was their team color. The car's got 15-inch wheels, 7 inches wide. This car weighs about 2,640 pounds. And the original cars, they said that the curb weight was 2,550, but I think they pulled that number right out of a hat, and they made it artificially low so that every car that raced would be sure to be within the weight limit. Because I don't think you can take much more weight out of this car and still have it be safe. What do you guys do to the engine?
You know, all the engines were taken out of the, taken to the engines were,
Okay, I'll give you a countdown. 3, let them go by.
Here comes another car.
Okay, Bernie, ready? 3, 2, 1, go.
Yeah, all the engines were taken into the engine room. They were all blueprinted and dyno tested. And the engines were put back into the cars. The cars were finished up, dropped off the jack stands. We tested them behind the blast wall there at LAX airport. Lined the front end, they were striped, taken to Willow Springs. They were tested by Chuck Cantwell or Ken Miles. Every car was track tested before it was sold.
A lot of the parts were taken from Ford's inventory. This radiator were pieces from a Galaxy. They didn't have a lot of parts that were unique to this car. They used other pieces that already existed to keep the cost down. This brace here, they call it an export brace. It's stronger than the stock Mustang brace, and it triangulates the shock towers with the firewall to give more stability to the front end during high speed. This was a piece that was used on Falcons and Mustangs that were sent overseas because they had rougher roads. Cars that went to South America where they had a lot of dirt roads, they needed the extra strength. This piece they call the Monte Carlo Bar. It ties the front fenders together because at high speeds the front fenders had a tendency to flex. And I think the fastest one of these cars ever went, not this car, but one just like it, was clocked at about 165 miles an hour at Daytona. Front end has a fiberglass valance with an opening for the oil cooler, and with the larger radiator, this bulkhead has also been cut open. It's got air ducts in the front that duct cold air right to the front brakes. There's also air ducts underneath the car that duct air to the rear brakes. And even though back in 1965 when they raced these cars, the SCCA races were only a half hour, each race was a half hour long. So they really didn't need it wasn't like an endurance car where they had to have a lot of special cooling, but they did race some of these cars at Sebring and Daytona, and those were 12-hour or 24-hour races.
3, 2, 1, go, Rick.
Okay, they eliminate the lock, and they use one pin on the end of a lanyard to keep the trunk closed. Inside the trunk, you've got an extra capacity gas tank, which was 2 Mustang gas tanks welded together, and it holds 34 gallons, 3.5-inch cap, and a big funnel so that when they come in and do a pit stop and they splash the gas in there, it had someplace to go. Battery was in the back for weight distribution, and it's got a pair of electric fuel pumps here to pump the gas up to the engine. Rear bumper was removed with a little plate where the hole is for the gas cap.
These cars were built and sold for $5,900 each. You could get a brand new turnkey Mustang race car all ready to go.
And it was amazing because actually you could pick this car up at the dealer and you could take it right to the track, put race tires on it and race it. You didn't have to do a thing, and in fact a lot of people did. As they raced them, they found some weak links and they needed a little bit more work, but any race car, you need to improve on it a little bit. Everybody has their own little tricks, but basically right out of the box. I don't think there was any other American cars made that you could buy as a race car from basically any Ford dealer or any Shelby dealer.
Turn it on.
It's on. If it does quit, maybe I can. Yeah, those BP cars, and they go
got they build a box.
Okay.